For today's episode, I head down to Atlanta, I check out the cool things going on at Emory University, and we talk a little bit about why creation is something that really does fit so well for today's entrepreneurship students.
I'll tell you, I'll preempt a little bit of this one, is I've been in the startup game for a while, and I've been sort of teaching entrepreneurship as a nice active hobby for about 5 years. And I got really disillusioned with the fact that I was helping teach all these people entrepreneurship, and you all are here for an entrepreneurship thing, and yet very few of my students were going on to start companies after college or in college. And I was sort of like, I must be terrible at this whole thing. And so part of this journey actually starts with me quitting teaching. And I quit teaching because I felt like I was teaching about 300 kids per year at Georgetown, actually, and I only about 1 or 2 of them were going on to start something after college. And so I thought that was super depressing, and so I decided to do something a little bit different.
It's really an interesting thing to recognize that when you're sort of creating companies, you oftentimes need to create other things to complement yourself, to create more depth, and to be able to win.
Remember, still today, it still is helpful to go to a good school. It's not a bad thing. I'm not saying drop out of school or anything like that, I promise you. Because it still does help you. It can still add credibility to go to good institutions. That is continuing to wane though. The ability for you to go to a great school and that be enough is certainly starting to go away. What we learned in our research is this, actually, that what happens is that each of us now has the power to create our own credibility. We can actually create it in a different way than ever before. But what's even more important about it is that it actually has an exponential value to credibility we borrow. So I'll say that again. It's actually exponentially more valuable to create your own credibility than to borrow credibility. So, for example, you can go to Stanford 10 times, and it may not actually have as much value as creating something like a book, a podcast, a video series that we'll talk a little bit about. That's sort of the secret of today. And so I'll give you some quick examples of a few stories that have sort of this experience. And so I think Andrea asked the right question to start is, how do you figure out what your passion is, what your purpose is? And the first and most important thing to know is that every single one of you knows, and every single one of you can actually have your own level of expertise. The problem is that you don't really think it's feasible, right? Sort of like what I told Will McDonald, it's ridiculous, right, for you to want to be a venture capitalist. Or what I told an artist from Carnegie Mellon, it's ridiculous that you might want to work at SpaceX. So these are 4 students of mine. They're all sort of just like you, bright and everything. Cody, Jacqueline, Shiv, and Tony. And like all of them, each of them had sort of their own version of what they wanted their dream job to be. Cody is a Marine veteran. He wanted to actually work with Marines to coach them. Had no idea how to do this. Jacqueline wanted to launch her own business after school. She had no idea how to start there. Shiv wanted to be a soccer scout one day. He was all set to intern at KPMG. And Antonia wanted to work in startups that weren't hiring for people. What's crazy about each and every one of them is they actually went through a journey to create something that helped them stand out. And they all actually have figured out what their dream job has done. Shiv Jangiani is an interesting story that I'll tell you about, the guy in the middle. He was 19 years old when I met him. He was someone who was sort of bright and ambitious. He was all set to intern at KPMG for the summer. And so he told me all early on, he's like, my dream job in life is I want to be a soccer scout. Played soccer growing up, that was his dream job. And so I asked him well, what's your plan to do that? And he said, well, I figured that I'll probably work for about 20 years or so, and then maybe I'll have figured out my way into that, right? Now that's super depressing, right? I'm not whatever, you can go to KPMG or not, but if you have to fucking do that for 20 years before you're ever getting your dream job, that's a disaster, all right? So Shiv went through an experience similar to Will and some of these others, and that he spent time actually actively working on something towards his purpose, his passion, right? It's okay to know what it is, but how do you actually do that? And so these are individuals that would think, they would read, they would research, they would write, they would create. And ultimately, the end of that experience, over about an 8-month journey, each and every one of them created a book. They published it. And so I'll share some examples of some of the things that these students have created just so you can see some of them. But these are things that they all did to sort of demonstrate their own purpose, their own passion, their experiences. These are all things that are accessible to us, and it's not just about books. We use books because actually it works well in colleges settings, but each and every one of them figured out a way to demonstrate their purpose.